Thank you for coming to my lightning talk at MW20 online, not in Los Angeles, but here we are. I'm Maria Harrington at UCF. I'd like to introduce virtual dioramas and arboretums and field trips made with immersive, interactive, and multimodal XR technology for natural history museums, bringing them to life with a multi-sensory experience and access to facts, as well as story, curator story. So we'll introduce these two products. And then I want to demonstrate videos and evidence from a July 2019 study on learning gains and engagement, linking those gains to different features in the AR app that seem to be correlated. Then I want to go over the design, production, and development process to create these artifacts. So if you're not familiar with dioramas, here's a picture of the forest diorama in the Hall of Botany at the Carnegie Museum of Natural History in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. You can see they are spatial, three-dimensional representations or models of the environments and presented in context to other environments. They're usually thematically arranged. They might be of environments of the past or of places that we can't get to. And the idea was to simulate that with augmented reality and to annotate the entire diorama. We produced this app in augmented reality, the AR Perpetual Garden app, and it basically cascades out of the forest diorama to create a multi-sensory data visualization of a woodland springtime bloom with the correct species, their size, their location, their density, and this entire environment transforms the gallery floor into a woodland springtime bloom. It's phenomenal. You can walk through this woodland garden, and it's annotated with multimedia information with the curator's story and facts to a fact card. How impactful was this learning experience was the main question. So we ran a study recruiting 56 volunteers and assigned half of them to the no AR condition, which we're seeing right now. People would typically stand in front of the diorama and read the printed information, not interacting or not showing any signs of engagement. That compares and contrasts to the family here interacting with the AR app on the iPad Pros. They're listening to the birds and the insects, so the bioacoustics were also data-based from field studies on the right species and the densities relative to the plants. You're really walking through an immersive experience here. So this is an example where an app can be downloaded by the public, but they bring their own devices into a museum, and they can access all of this information. It's a visualization of the data, it's a acoustic soundscape of the data, and then interact with information on the story. You're beginning to hear the story. A virtual curator or docent can be integrated, and then access to facts for learning. So to keep the educational content the same, we ensured that both were the same in either condition. So this is an example of how all that information provides the context for a great learning experience in an informal environment. There's a teachable moment there. The grandfather is making the connection, and then other people are getting the same information. So that was really powerful. We thought that there would be a huge increase in learning, but when we looked at the data between the post-test and the pre-test, it's a percent change, we were glad to see that there was a 40% increase, but there was no difference to the no AR condition. So while learning occurred and it was significant, for either intervention, there was no difference between a booklet and the AR app. That was very surprising. Dwell times also increased, but they were also the same. So it seems that any intervention is going to improve learning, but what makes the AR so different and engaging and motivating and interactive? That's another question that we wanted to really dive into. So what we did was we ran a correlation. Hope I can get to that quickly. There we go. There's the correlation on the different features. And we found only 2 that were significant with the actual learning gains. That would be the access to the story and access to the facts. In reflection, that's not surprising, because in order to actually learn something, you need access to the facts and to place that into context with the story. What's really fascinating are all these intercorrelations to the attributes and the features of the AR app as designed to indicate that there's something going on here, and contrasting with the perceived learning. So ease of use and the access to the flowers were correlated to subjective interpretations, but they did not result in actual learning. So that's an interesting finding. So what is next? We are working on a much larger model at the University of Central Florida. This is an example of the Arboretum, and it's a 100-hectare model. It shows all of the plants. We have some of the animals visualized in a virtual environment as ambient life. But this is an environment that can be walked through and explored, and really experienced as a virtual environment. So it's currently used in studies, and we're looking at how navigation and information fidelity influence learning. One improvement is to make all of these plants interactive, so you can click on them and it opens up the facts and the stories. This information is on the point of interest or the point of curiosity. It also works with the headset and a treadmill and a projected wall for interactivity. It would be wonderful as an interactive VR wall installed in a museum or a public space. It can be downloaded from my research website and installed on home computers or in schools for virtual field trips. What made all of these models effective, I think, is the attention to detail and the high information fidelity in the product design process. I call this the modified user-centered design process to include learner-centered design. And the first cycle deals with the content and the facts and scientific review to ensure that all of that information is correct. The pictures match the name, match the Latin name, all the educational material. And this too could have a learning science review as possible at the front end. Once that's released, it goes into a creative art process where these AR models are built according to the specifications released by the scientists. In a way, these are like three-dimensional botanical prints that are fully interactive. And there's an aesthetic review to make sure that they are capturing the essence of that plant and the spirit of that plant. Then what is also unique is the aesthetic and the scientific review is a collaborative process where the scientists, in this case it was the botanist at the Carnegie, gave us feedback and we iterated until she approved and released it to the development team. Now the last cycle in this 3-cycle process deals with the optimization of the user experience. So we minimize errors and time on tasks, and test it with the users and stakeholders until there's an appropriate level of acceptance for product release. And at that point, we are optimizing it for the different platforms. And in this case, with the AR app, it was for both the Apple, iTunes, and also Google Play. So I believe that a good process yields a good product, and this is a truly interdisciplinary co-creative activity that was involved. All right, so the next part, here we go. These are just slides on showing how we went through this process with the students, and they created these magnificent models that are all available, and then fused it together with the data set provided by the Arboretum. So what we're looking at is a large map of University of Central Florida, and the big red square is the map, the section that we modeled. On the right-hand side, that's actually the Unreal Engine terrain, and I superimposed the drone images to enhance the fidelity of information provided by the GIS data set. Well, that's it. I hope you enjoyed my lightning talk. I hope that you are in touch if you are interested in these exhibits or any other kinds of questions I can answer for you. If you want the software, please feel free to download it or send an email to me at maria.harrington@ucf.edu.